Good evening.
Thank you.
I'm going to talk about STHENOS project, and more specifically for the online educational repository we developed for STHENOS, and it contains material for affective computing. Now, a few words about the STHENOS project. Our research on this project aims at the development of methodologies and tools to compose pervasive human-centered systems which will be able to understand the human state, the identity, emotions, behavior in assistive environments using audio-visual and biological signals. The methodologies that we aim to develop during this project will be able to offer services such as support for the aged, disabled or chronic patients, detection of critical situations from audio-visual content, biosignal neurophysiology analysis for the detection of pathology, for example, for the Alzheimer's disease, as well as for treatment follow-up. Our main research goals are to develop some tools to recognize human behaviors from audiovisual content using fusion or non-invasive sensors such as visual or audio. This type of behavior includes motion patterns and trajectories of abnormal events such as falls, for example, for the aged people. Tools to identify affect and emotion from audiovisual data in a non-invasive way. Tools to analyze neurophysiological data, EEG, ECG, SCR, in order to recognize emotional states and to perform follow-up studies. And tools for dynamic multimodal human-machine interaction. Further to that, visual attention mechanisms will be investigated and correlated to social behavior. And last but not least, an educational portal for researchers and professionals where educational material will be created and the created data sets will be freely accessible. We will focus on this presentation on this portal. Now, about the educational portal. It's a custom learning management system. It's based on mEducator 3 technologies. It's open source, of course. It's developed using the Drupal 7 content management system. A few words about the mEducator project. Run between May 2009 and April 2012, a best practice network co-funded by the eContent Plus 2008 program of the European Commission. The aim of the mEducator project was to develop tools and methodologies to discover, retrieve, use, rate, reuse, repurpose educational content independently of any learning or content management system. MELINA Plus is a content learning management system based on these techniques. Now, it's difficult to explain. Is there a pointer?
There was.
Oh, yeah. It's difficult to explain in a few minutes what mEducator is about, but imagine that if you have educational resources, these all are learning objects. For example, it can be videos or presentations or ebooks or anything else can be considered as a learning object. mEducator, if you put them in any learning management system, for example in Moodle, you'll have such a picture. But if you put it in a learning or content management system based on mEducator technologies, you'll have this picture. Because mEducator uses the content metadata to classify them in a semantic way and expose all this data to the semantic web. Now, mEducator extended uses metadata to describe the learning objects and the content, as I said before. Have extended licensing support. All content is exposed to the semantic web through RDFA and SparkUL. Supports rating of the resources by the users and has an embed expert review process and many other things. This is how the portal looks like. This is not the STHENOS portal. Currently, we are adding content to the STHENOS portal, but this is another portal we have based on the very same technology. Some highlights of the technology. You can see, for example, here, This is the learning object. This is the title of the learning object. A feature, for example, is this DPpedia Spotlight blog. What it does, it finds related articles from Wikipedia, but related to the content of the learning resource. And this number shows the similarity between the article of the Wikipedia and of the learning resource of our system. The amazing thing is that it works very well, and this surprises even me, which I'm the developer of the algorithm. Because, for example, you see virtual patients, a Swiss knife. This article has nothing to do with medical or with virtual patients. That's why it gets a very low similarity score. This all is done automatically by algorithms. The platform is also social. You can create relationships between the users of the platform, and you can use these relationships to post requests to the users to collaborate with you when adding new content, or to review your content, etc. All content that is uploaded to the platform, before it publishes, there is an expert review process. The user sends the content, an expert review the published material. If he has some, for example, if it's not very, how can I say, the quality is low, then make some comments. The system sends the comments to the original creator of the content. He makes some changes, resubmit it, and this goes again and again until the reviewer, which is an expert user, approves the content and the content accepted for publish. This is the main project URL, and this is the educational portal that we just described. If we have some time, I want you to show it in action. Okay, this is it. Currently, we don't have much content in there. Let me log in. This aims to be a hub for learning resources related to affective computing. So I want to call anyone, if you have any article, any presentation or something, you can upload it here, and you're going to ask me why should I upload my material here, because you're going to share with other people, and you're going to cite if someone uses. You can give permissions to use or not to use the content. So now I want you to show how you can create a new content. You have to register. You get an account, you log in, and then you just go to create and create a new educational object. Now, you must feel there are a lot of fields. These fields are the metadata that we talked a little while ago. It's not all fields mandatory. There are some mandatory fields. For example, the title, you have to give a title for your learning object. Let's give a test title. Now, if you have your learning object as a file somewhere in your computer, you could upload it here, but also a learning object could exist somewhere else. For example, it could be a YouTube video. So in this case, you just select my learning object exists already online, and you just have to give a unique identifier for the end user to find this object. For example, if it's a YouTube video, it's a URL. But also, it can be a book. So in this case, you'll give the ISBN number, which is unique. Okay, I don't know what is CAMEI. Let's go to the licensing of the content. You have to give a license before publishing your content. These are the basic Creative Commons licenses. You can click the links to see the meaning if you don't know already the meaning of each license, but you can also give your own license if something, you give the license name and the license URI. For example, I know that YouTube has its own license, so you have to name here YouTube license and give the URI of the license. The next field is the metadata description language. This is not the resource language, is the language that you use for rendering the metadata. In this case, is English. The resource language can be another language. For example, if you have a presentation in Greek language, you're going to write here Greek. Now, I think the mandatory fields are finished. You can describe your content in terms of quality. You can, one more mandatory field is the resource creator. You have to write who is the resource, the original creator of the resource. And of course, you can put as many authors as you need. The metadata creator, which can be different than the resource creator, is another thing, the resource creator, and another thing, the person that enters the metadata. The date, and now there are many fields that I have, it's hidden, just not to scare you because there are many. You can upload an image, a representative image for your material, a short content description, how would you like users to cite your work, some technical description, for example, if it's a Unity game, you need the Unity plugin. You have to write it here just to inform the end user that he will need to install the Unity plugin to see your work. You can select from a predefined vocabulary the media type. You have to select the resource type here, again from a controlled vocabulary. The discipline, there are other fields, educational details, educational context, teaching learning instructions, outcomes, objectives, assessment methods. There are too many fields. There are non-mandatory fields. Educational outcomes here. You can repurpose an existing object, which in this case, this is automatically filled. In our case, we have a creation of a new object, so it's not a repurposing object. And at the very bottom of the screen, you can select if you create some relationships, some connections with other users of the platform. You can select here, when you create a new object, to send a notification. For example, I have, there are three types of relationships right now: co-workers, friends, and group teammates. You can select, for example, to send your co-workers a notification automatically that they will allow them to view or update or delete the specific object. So it's a kind of collaborative development. I tried to explain you how you can upload a new object, and of course, at the end, you just press save, and your object will be saved, and it's going to, for a review from an expert user of the system, and then for publishing. I think that's all for me. I'm open to questions or comments. Thanks very much.
Do we have any questions for Dimitris? I was interested in that, again, the authors are needing to put the metadata in. Do you give them some guidance as to how what keywords you're looking for, or is it totally a free choice?
No, it's not a free choice. There are, among the fields, there are fields that are completely controlled. The user must choose from a controlled vocabulary, but the truth is that there are fields that the user can enter anything he likes. So he must be a little trained. For example, someone must know what a learning outcome is to enter it correctly. But that's why we have the review process. Because if you write something wrong, for example, in learning outcomes, which is not a learning outcome, the expert review will see it, will correct you, will make a comment to you, and the system will notify you that you have to edit this. Then resend the educational object for review, and this is the process. So we have a semi-automatic mechanism to publish. There are things like that, yes.
I think that's actually very exciting because it gives novices who haven't engaged with coding metadata, it's actually training them up as well as actually developing the repository. I think that's a really exciting development.
The problem with metadata is that there are really a lot of metadata. I know it's difficult for the users to write all these things. That's why most of them are not mandatory. The truth is that the most metadata we have, we can do better classification and deliver better user experience to the end user who searches for the material, for example.
I think part of the challenge is that often authors are not the technical developers, and actually being able to use the metadata is quite a technical approach, and it's trying to help authors develop those skills which perhaps don't come naturally to them.
Yes, that's why I said before that it must be a little bit trained on this.
Yes. Do we have any other questions for Dimitris? No? Well, we're 2 minutes ahead of time, which I think is absolutely perfect. So I'd like to thank all our speakers this afternoon for giving a very, very interesting session. And I've definitely learned a lot, and I hope you've also benefited from this afternoon. So shall we give our speakers a final round of applause? Thank you.